It's time to preview the Detroit Lions. And before I get started, because there are many storylines for the Detroit Lions this season, I just want to say that this team really tugs at my heart, pulls the old heartstrings. Why is that? Well, first of all, I have extended family in Michigan, great people, some of the best members of my family, I may say. So I've seen some of the suffering that they've gone through, particularly the last two seasons, right? San Francisco, NFC title game, really felt like they should have went to the Super Bowl. What were they up like 24 points at halftime, something like that? And then last season, the Jaden Daniels experience, all the injuries they had on defense, losing in the divisional round. Oh my gosh, number one seed, nothing mattered in the end. Torture, right? And the way the crowd reacted to that team like the last two seasons, it's a little different now. This team, same team for the most part, but it's a little different. We'll get to that in case you haven't heard already. But the way that the crowd is getting into this team and the city of Detroit, like Eminem showing up at the draft at these games, it's just you just want to see this team win. So I am acutely aware that I might have some bias built in to my analysis on the Detroit Lions, and that doesn't always mean, by the way, that I'm going to have a more favorable analysis of the Lions, because that could mean that I'm more interested. Maybe I'm seeing more or overanalyzing, or maybe I don't want to be biased, so I'm going the other direction a little too much, right? So, like, I'm a Giants fan, as you know, if you've been watching these videos or following me at all. So, I usually try and stay away from betting on Giants games as much as I can because of that internal pendulum of bias, right? Either positive or negative. In this case, I really would love if the Lions won a fucking Super Bowl. Will they win a Super Bowl this year? I don't know. And the big question is, has that ship already sailed? And that's a fair question. And we'll get to all the reasons why that's a fair question. But let's take some other teams even recently, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, a juggernaut in the Super Bowl seemingly every year. Not the dynasty that the Patriots were, at least not yet, but their ship might have sailed already, right? Just some of the controversy going on in the offseason, some of the players that they've lost. Travis Kelce is towards the end of his career. He's obviously very focused on Taylor Swift and other things. These are all negatives for the Chiefs' success moving forward. It's very hard to consistently win and to consistently make it deep into the playoffs in the NFL, a team of so much parity, so much volatility, to stay on top, to keep it up. Very tough. Now it's going to get even tougher for the Detroit Lions after last season's failure because of a few very, very serious big reasons, right? And we're about to get to that. Let's just go over 2024 quickly. This season that you probably already know about. Offensively, they're the best in the NFL. First in total offense, top 5 running game, top 3 passing game. There just wasn't much to say that was negative. 564 points scored in 2024 was the 4th most of all time. First in Detroit Lions history, 564 points. Offense could not be stopped. Of course, they only played, I believe, like 3 or 4 outdoor games all season. So, that was beneficial, right? They had a schedule that kind of fit Jared Goff's style a little bit more. That's changing this season. We'll get to that as they face the AFC North. Nobody plays inside in the AFC North. That's for sure. So already, right, things are changing. Like the ideal nature of their schedule last season, in an NFC North that wasn't quite as good as it was now. The Bears still very flawed. Jordan Love's like second real season, flawed. Injuries. Jordan Love had injuries. And the Vikings were very good. The Vikings had Sam Darnold. They're 14-3. Unbelievable defense. But ultimately they couldn't stay in lockstep with the Lions. Now, the biggest thing that happened to their offense, 2 things, and it's huge. I talk a lot about how important the quarterback and coach are to a team. That may sound obvious, but I don't believe others weigh it enough in their analysis. I think most analysts overestimate other aspects of the game. If you have an administration, a coaching staff that is symbiotic with the quarterback, and both are talented and both are firing on all cylinders, there are a few combinations that matter more in the NFL. In my opinion, there are zero. Now, in some teams, there are exceptions, right? Defense can be really good. Maybe the quarterback is just really good, even if there's not a symbiotic relationship. So there are always outliers. But it was a powerful thing last season when Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, that since he became offensive coordinator, the Lions had a winning record every year, 3 seasons. In the past 2 seasons, they were the best, one of the best, if not the best offenses in the NFL. Last season, they were for sure. Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. Not only is he on a different team, he's with the Chicago Bears, a divisional rival. So Ben Johnson is a huge loss for the Detroit Lions. And as much as I talk about coaching and quarterbacks, if there's any second place to the most important part of a team, it's the offensive line. And the Detroit Lions lost 2 big parts, guard Kevin Zeitler and center Frank Ragnow, who retired. Did Zeitler go to the Bears? I don't know exactly where Zeitler went. I think he's not there anymore. The point is, 2, not 1, but 2 stalwart offensive linemen. And Frank Ragnow, Jared Goff said it as he was going through the tunnel after that Commanders postseason loss, how broken he was that he didn't win a Super Bowl for Frank. Right? So it's a huge change in their team dynamic. He's a leader on the field. Right? It was like it's the same thing that happened when Jason Kelce left the Eagles. Now the Eagles, just like the Lions, I think, recovered, and they're still great. Right? They won a Super Bowl last year after Jason Kelce left. Can the Lions do the same thing? Because like Philly, Shane Steichen left after their Super Bowl appearance in 2022. The next year, 2023, the Eagles make the playoffs, but they lose in the wild card round with an 11-6 record. They just weren't quite as sharp, and you could see it. And that was after Shane Steichen left, right? That was after Jonathan Gannon left, their defensive coordinator, right? Which is the same thing that's happening to the Detroit Lions this season. So Dan Campbell is still there. Dan Campbell, in my opinion, is a top 3 coach in the NFL. He's an elite leader, elite motivator. The players respond to him. He knows how to create a culture, and that culture is big. It's foundational now with the Detroit Lions organization, and they still have all the talent in the world on this offense. They also drafted a nice rookie guard, Tate Ratledge from Georgia. Big boy. I'm sure he's going to step in and play a big role right away. And I'm pretty positive that this Detroit Lions offense is going to continue to be humming on all cylinders. I mentioned the AFC North. The NFC North and AFC North face each other this season, interconference battles. The AFC North has Cleveland, windy, cold, usually, especially after Halloween. Cincinnati, not great weather, kind of grimy. Baltimore, and the Steelers, right? Outdoor, tough, blue-collar teams, tough, blue-collar defenses, except for the Bengals. Not going to be easy, not going to be as easy for Jared Goff and the Lions to thrive offensively this year, not to mention the Bears have upgrades on defense. The Vikings are one of the best defenses in the NFL, at least they were last season, and we think they will be again. They retain most everybody, right? They still have Brian Flores, right? Aggressive defensive coordinator. And the Packers did some things that we really like defensively heading into this season. So the Lions offense has a real challenge ahead. And last season, especially to me, felt like the year where if the Lions are going to win, it had to be that year. Doesn't mean they can't still do it. But man, those are some significant losses on offense. Now, it does help that their new offensive coordinator, he was with the Lions in 2022, went and coached for Sean Payton for 2 years in Denver. So that's a really good guy to learn from. Sean Payton is obviously doing great things there in Denver. I think he's going to bring over some great new ideas, but they're mostly going to keep what's working. They're going to keep it going, right? And he was under Ben Johnson when Ben Johnson was offensive coordinator there. So he gets it. There's continuity there. Same thing for defense. Aaron Glenn left and is now coaching the Jets. I don't think that's as big of a deal Like the Lions defense got better when they got more talent. I think that was pretty obvious. I think Aaron Glenn is a good coach. I think he's a good motivator. He's a player's coach. But is Aaron Glenn the reason why Detroit's defense got better? I don't know that. He didn't hurt, okay? But their linebackers coach takes over now for the Lions as their defensive coordinator, so there's continuity there too. So you'd like to see that. Again, teams that are able to manage that, they tend to still succeed, to keep it going, keep the chemistry going, keep the culture going. I like that they added Marcus Davenport on defense in the offseason. Aiden Hutchinson is back, and reportedly, like Dan Campbell has to hold back offensive players from matching up with Aiden Hutchinson because that's how explosive he is. So it sounds like he is fully back. And I like that the defense also picked up corner DJ Reed from the Jets, one of the best free agent acquisitions of the offseason, in my opinion. Shutdown corner. It didn't even pay a max price for the kid. So that's a really good pickup. Now, again, they had a ton of injuries last season, so everything kind of has to be understood by that context. But their defense last year was exceptionally bad against the pass, average against the run. And really, the injury to Aiden Hutchinson is what started the downfall of their defense. Aiden Hutchinson was having a defensive MVP type year. If he can come back and be the same guy, he can still do that again. And that would certainly catapult the Lions to a different level. Maybe their offense doesn't have to be record breaking in that case. Their schedule is very hard, right? And as good as the Lions are, I only give them 4 wins where I know that they will win. I got my survivor chart over here, and I only have pinpointed 3 weeks that I would take the Lions this season. That's pretty crazy. Now, maybe I'll feel differently once we get into the season, but that's how hard their schedule is. One of the hardest in the NFL. The AFC North, again, they have to face every team from the AFC North. The NFC North is arguably the best division in the NFL. Many analysts have talked about every single one of those teams making the playoffs, going deep into the playoffs, and I think those are realistic notions. For me, not the Bears yet, but the Bears are certainly going to be better. Ben Johnson is proven in this league, and they made some really good acquisitions. I mean, that offensive line for Caleb Williams is no joke. They also face the NFC East through the Lions, so that's not easy. The Giants got better. The Commanders are back. Dak Prescott is back. And the Eagles are obviously Super Bowl champions. So other than the NFC East, AFC North, NFC North, other than NFC North, their own division in the AFC North, the Lions face Kansas City, Tampa, and the Rams as well, and then some other easy teams. But that is a really tough schedule. I rate this team as an 87 because they have the things that matter to me when I look for a winning organization, a winning team against the spread. It's there, so they still have a very high mark, a top 5 mark among all teams that I have power rated are the Detroit Lions. I lean over 10.5 wins this season, but I do not feel strongly about it, and I would not be surprised at all if the Detroit Lions take a little bit of a step back and they have to reevaluate some things. If they have to reevaluate some things after this season. All right, that's it. Let's go Lions. A little bit of bias because I know the Giants are going to make the Super Bowl. I hope the Giants do something this year, but I really hope that the Lions can get far again and can keep this ship afloat. It's going to be really tough. Next up is the Green Bay Packers.